Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. May I start by thanking the Minister for her reaching out and having conversations with colleagues, because the pace of housing development and the consequential pressure on access to public services is one of the most important and certainly one of the most frequent issues raised with me by constituents. And context here is important. The people of Bedfordshire are not against new housing. Indeed, in my constituency, we're doing our fair share and a lot more besides, with 3 to 5 times the national average of growth. But what local people most want, and to get most want from this bill, is greater local control over the siting and type of new developments, an avoidance of too rapid growth, and most of all, improvements to public services, such as GPs and school places, before additional large-scale housing developments. And I'm seeking changes to the bill to achieve these ends, although I do recognise, for what the Minister has said, that some progress in this bill is being made on all those fronts. My Amendment 75 seeks to close the loophole that developers use to get round delays in local plans to secure unwanted developments. Amendment 74 seeks to include specifically goals regarding net zero, biodiversity, the circular economy and recycling into neighbourhood plans. And new Clause 87 seeks to provide specific assistance via regulation for listed buildings that wish to insulate or make other changes to their properties consistent with net zero goals. And finally, Amendment 76 seeks to implement the manifesto commitment of infrastructure first that improve access to local services. On Amendment 75, good people play by the rules, not just the letter but also the spirit of the rules. And right at the start of becoming a Member of Parliament for North East Bedfordshire, I was made aware of a loophole in planning law that was being exploited by developers to obtain permission for development not wanted by local people while a local plan is in confirmation is in abeyance. And this amendment seeks to close that particular loophole. My Amendment 74 really says I'm really very concerned that Parliament has set a legal requirement to achieve net zero without properly assessing the potential cost or methodologies to taxpayers and consumers for achieving this. I'm concerned that the technologies we need are still evolving and that lowering the overall cost may take action on a community level rather than on an individual level. For example, charging points for electric vehicles or decarbonising home heat. So I've tabled Amendment 74 that will require neighbourhood plans to include considerations of 3 issues important to our natural environment: achieving net zero, promoting and increasing local biodiversity, and improving levels of recycling. New Clause 87 regarding listed properties. At my local surgery sessions, I have met a number of residents who live in listed buildings and who are really concerned at the restrictions that stop them insulating their homes or making other changes that might be needed to comply with future legislation. This new clause places a requirement on the Secretary of State to make regulations that make it easier for owners of residential listed buildings to improve the energy efficiency of their buildings, and importantly places requirements on historic England to be supportive in these measures and efforts taken by residents. And finally, Amendment 76 on the Conservative Manifesto commitment. I was very pleased to see our manifesto commitment to infrastructure first and to listen to what the Minister had to say today and at earlier stages of this bill about the process and progress we're making on this. But I want to be sure that there is sufficient progress in this, particularly with regard to the pressure on GP services and school places. And I'm hopeful that in her summing up, my honourable friend will talk a little bit further in more detail about how the measures of this bill will be delivering on the Conservative Manifesto commitment for infrastructure first. A combination of making sure that we have the local control over the way in which housing is developed, a further and deeper commitment at a community level to the understanding of the real practical changes that are going to be made to achieve our net zero goals, to achieve things like equitable insulation for homes, and to achieve local transportation methods that are green and clean, I think are great opportunities in this bill, and I look forward to hearing the Minister's comments.